Pamela is a revolutionary. I think she's a revolutionary in the field of somatic sexology. You were recently featured in Oprah magazine. How exciting is that? Do you have your copy? It's
Very
somewhere
excited.
around here. She's very excited. I mean, like Oprah's talking about somatic sexology. I know Christian Northrup has been another big supporter of the somatic work, for those of you who know her. And you were also featured in National Women's Health magazine. So a lot of really great stuff happening here. Between the two of us, we have like a gazillion decades of experience in somatics. I've been at it for 20 years. You know, I don't know how long you've been working at it, but you also worked in fertility. So there's a lot of stuff that we have done collaboratively. And I want to talk just a little bit about the reason why I wanted to have this conversation. I think when it comes to sexuality, unleashing female sexual pleasure is, I mean, I'm just on a huge mission about pleasure in general for anybody and everybody around the world. But there's something about unleashing female sexual pleasure that I think can heal our planet. I mean, this is like so big. And Pamela, you and I did an interview a couple of months ago, and it was just so juicy and fun that I wanted to do one for everyone, that everybody could just hop on and join and play with us. So tonight I really want to have a conversation about what it means to be sexually confident, about what it means to really fully be in your sexual power. Pamela, you're also an author of Shameless, which is an amazing book. So there's a lot that we are out there doing. But I think end goal, we're wanting to start a revolution around sexuality. And I know you've been doing one around female sexuality. Can you speak just a little bit to the revolution?
You know, thank you, Jaiya. That's a lovely introduction. And, you know, in South Africa, their way of saying, you know, thank you or you're welcome is pleasure. And so it's a pleasure to be here with you, to be talking about women and sexuality and why it's so important, and why it's so hard for women to reach for, you know, erotic confidence. And I don't mean to start on a down note, but I think we kind of do a little bit, you know, Jaiya, is to look historically at where we've come from. I mean, just this week, there was an honor killing in Pakistan from a beautiful model who was embracing her sexuality on social media and trying to be free with her sexuality, and her brother murdered her. And so even if we're not in that home, okay, even if we're not raised like that in that culture, we still get those messages that women who are fully expressed are a dangerous beauty, you know, that somehow that we are, if we are fully expressed as women, that we will be held responsible for all the misdeeds in the universe, and that if anything happens to us, it's our fault. If we are erotically expressed, I mean, we're taught still as little girls, close your legs, you know, care more about other people's feelings than your own, you know, be in service, as opposed to, honey, what would you like? You know, what would you like to eat? How would you like to be touched? Do you even have erotic feelings? And so I think what we're doing, Jaiya, you and I together, you know, through somatic programming like this, is reprogramming, actually reprogramming our cellular memory about what it is to be female, and, you know, support women in unprogramming so that they can reach for their desire. Does that make sense to you, Jaiya?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this leads to my next point, which is one of the reasons why I want to have this conversation, is because I want to make a contribution, and we together, Pamela and I, teaming up, to ending some of the suffering that's been happening around sexuality. And I don't want to say that it's just been happening recently, but that has been happening for eons and decades and centuries around sexuality. You know, I recently have been talking about my big mission, and it's hard for me to even talk about without almost breaking down into tears because it's so freaking big to shift. Can you imagine a world where women are free to a world, not just the United States, not just some of the cultures that have access to this, but the whole world having freedom to sexually express ourselves, to live in our sexual power and radiance, and where sexuality is celebrated and cultivated. And yes, yes, we can imagine that world. And I think that's why we're so passionate about what we're doing and why we're having this conversation tonight. So thank you all of us for joining.
And the thing is, Jaiya,
yeah.
Yes, we're supporting you, everybody. What is so hard is that it's one thing to say to women, right? We want you to name your desire. We want you to be fully erotically expressed. We want you to be able to have female ejaculation in rainbow colors, right? You know, we want you to be multiply orgasmic. You know, we want you to surrender and open. Okay, these are really great goals. But what's the hitch? Like, why aren't we doing it? I think, Jaiya, the reason is we don't know. How can I ask for? I love using
something I don't know. Right.
How can I ask for Thai food when I've only been fed White Castle hamburgers? I can't.
Right.
You know, how can I ask for what I desire or something new or a new feeling if I don't have a clue about really what it is that I want? How can I surrender? How can I open if I don't know what's coming at me? Can you open, Jaiya, if you can't trust what's coming at you?
No, if we can't trust in our bodies and we don't feel safe, it's very, very hard to open.
Right.
Absolutely. So I want to brag on you just a little bit more because I know you have so much to do, but I want to brag on you just a little bit more. So one of the reasons why Pamela, you know, because I could do this with lots of other women, but there's something about the somatic, something about the body-based work that the two of us have done. And I think you're causing a storm of sexual unleashing in women through the work that you're doing and that we're both doing together. So, you know, I want to talk just a little vulnerably first. Because I think that in order for us to have gone on the journeys that we've gone on, we have to have been through some stuff. And I think that people look at you and I and they go, oh, look at Pamela and her boudoir pictures, and she's just out there doing this. And look at Jaiya, she's having orgasms coming out her ears. And
there goes one.
Oh. And they don't realize that we've actually come from humble beginnings. Like there was a point in my life when I was completely numb and shut down sexually, and I had to really awaken that and go through a journey of healing, and places in my body where I still, you know, struggle, like when it comes to like anal play or, you know, there's those places. And so I just want to ask everybody's permission. It's okay. We're going to talk about sex tonight. So I just want to create a little bit of container that we are going to talk about sex. It's okay for guys to be here. I see that there are some men here. Thank you, men, for joining us, because learning about this is also really valuable for you. And we're going to give you some tools tonight to really help you unleash this, ladies. So I just want to touch on that for a moment and some of the things that Pamela and I do on a regular basis to get to where we are today. And so I've gone through periods where I had numb, I had pain, where my partner didn't want me, didn't want to have sex with me. I felt rejected. I felt unloved. I mean, all this kind of stuff, you know, where I cried myself to sleep at night, rolling over with him not touching me and wondering what the F is wrong. And so there's that vulnerability piece. So I just wonder if there's a story you could share just so that people know that we have been on a journey, not just, this just wasn't the way we were. Oh, I would say it's the way we were born, but it got shamed out of us and we had to refine ourselves.
It got shamed out and cultured out.
Yeah.
You know, my story, which I tell in Shameless, it's a memoir, really starts when I'm 40. So I'm a little older than Jaiya. I've got about 10 years on her. And I've been married. And I've been married since I was 20 years old. And I also had an eating disorder and had what I would call body dysmorphia. Mm. And my friends, started to have what we now don't call them affairs anymore. Now we call it poly or open. But 12 years ago, there was no poly. There was just cheating, at least, where I lived. I never heard the word poly when I was going through my own sexual awakening. And, I went basically trolling, looking for a somatic practitioner to help me unleash what was inside of me. I knew that there was a big erotic energy in me. I knew it wasn't about my marriage bed. I knew it wasn't about my husband. I felt like it was about me, Jaiya. Mm. And I felt that I was numbing myself with food, so I didn't have to feel what was erotically inside me. And once I figured it out, and I started to be able to express myself with a practitioner on a massage table, one-way touch, what we're trained in, Jaiya, right? Mm-hmm. An amazing thing happened. I stopped having an eating disorder. I had an eating disorder from the time I was 14 to 42. Wow. When I started getting on the table and working with therapists around my eroticism and my sexuality, and feeding myself what my body really wants, which was to be immersed in physical pleasure, my eating disorder disappeared. I stopped numbing. I didn't have to numb desire anymore. And through working with a practitioner in an immersive way, what happened for me was that I was able to figure out what my desires were. I was able to figure out pleasure for myself, learn how to ask for what I wanted, and it was a journey. So a little bit different than your journey, but still a very parallel journey of self-discovery, yes?
Yes, absolutely. I think it starts with self-discovery, because if you don't know yourself, you can't communicate. We'll talk about this. You can't communicate to anyone else what you need. Knowing yourself is a big part of this unleashing. So
I'm still on the journey.
I am still on a journey. I'll never stop this journey. This journey goes on and on and on. So to join the conversation, you guys can type in questions. I had trouble with the questions box. So if you guys have trouble there, we can, I don't know what we'll do about the questions box. Maybe we'll get it fixed here, but that's a possibility here, because I want you all in this conversation. As well as I want you guys just to know that tonight we may be using some naughty words. Pamela and I do not like to be on leashes. We like to be unleashed. So we might use some words like pussy or possibly fuck too. I don't know. I was on a radio show earlier today, and the guy said something about if I go to a girl and I say, I want to fuck you. And I was like, ooh, I love that when you say that to me. So, we're going to speak explicitly about sex tonight, because I want to open up the conversation to many aspects. I might touch on my blueprints for those of you who know some of that and why that's important, and that there are many languages of sex. And that's just a little bit here, is that, there are some people for whom those words are very triggering, and there are some people for whom those words are like really awesome and turn us on. And so we all have different languages. So I just wanted to invite us all to see this as we are a community and a melting pot of many different people who have many different turn-ons, many different kinds of language, many different ways of speaking about sex. And so just notice in your body if something we say is triggering, if it feels icky or feels like something comes up. Start listening and paying attention to your body and notice what kind of responses you have. So I want to dive into somatic things, but I want to also say this is a safe place for all expressions of sexuality. And we both have a lot of empathy, Pamela and I, so we will share in that as well. And I want to also touch tonight on the #1 way to create erotic transformation. That's not about learning more sex techniques. And so we're going to touch on that tonight. It's not about learning more sex techniques. And I want you guys to hear that, because I think a lot of people think I need more techniques. It's not about that. So let's start there. Um, what is somatic learning versus head learning, Pamela? What would you say about that? What is somatic learning? What does that mean?
Well, I believe what somatic learning is when we actually can feel in our bodies, without the judgment of our mind, and notice what our body's doing. So I'm going to tell you a story. Can I tell you a story?
Yes, I
So
love stories.
at the last immersion retreat, at the last sexual wellness immersion retreat that I was a part of, we had a woman who really wanted to open. She kept saying, "I want to open, Ron. I want," and Ron's one of the somatic therapists I work with. "I want to open." And she was telling him this, "Yes, I want to open." But as she would say, "I want to open," her legs would close.
Mm.
Her legs would close, and she wasn't even aware.
Hmm.
In her head learning, she's saying, "I want to open. I want to open." Right? So if you were with the therapist, just talking about it, the therapist would say, "Great, you want to open. That's wonderful. How are all the ways that you can open?" Now, somatic learning, she's on the table. She's with a practitioner who she's gotten to know, who's a certified somatic practitioner, a sexological body worker. And she's saying to him, "I want to open." He's fully clothed, he's gloved, he's ready and there to help her. She's saying, "I want to open," but her body is closing. And so he's able to notice to her and say, "Beauty," I'm not going to use her name, "Beauty, can you feel your legs closing? You're telling me with your brain that you want to open, but your body is saying no."
Hmm.
Your body is closing. And so then we were able to work with that. Did she really want to open?
Hmm.
What was the disconnect between her mind and her body? And by the end of the immersion, by the end of the 6th day, she could feel her muscles when they started to close, because she didn't feel it, right, Jaiya?
Uh-huh.
It was,
Uh-huh.
it was just habit. She
Right.
didn't feel her legs closing. But by the end of the immersion, she was able to notice when there was a disconnect between her mind and her body, and she was able to open,
Hmm.
and she was able to have an orgasm.
I would say
And
that's number one reasons why women can't have an orgasm is because there's this huge disconnect between their heads and their body. They're not aware of what's happening actually in their bodies.
no
Yeah.
one's observing it.
Right.
Nobody's coaching them. No one's noticing. "Oh, honey, you say you want to open, but your inner thighs are closing." So let's look at that. So
Uh-huh.
that's an example.
Hmm.
That's an example of the difference between head learning and body learning. Our bodies talk. Our bodies talk. The
Hmm.
problem is that we're not listening. We're not listening, and our lovers aren't listening because they're not trained to listen. Lovers aren't therapists. Lovers are lovers, right?
There's a big difference. I often say, I don't want my lover to be my healer and I don't want to be his teacher. I want him to
Exactly.
be my lover. Yeah.
Exactly. So when women, and I mostly work with women, come and do an immersion retreat, there's somebody they're noticing, Jaiya. There's somebody noticing who's giving presence to
Hmm.
the full body experience of a woman and who is trained to listen. That's their job. So when the woman goes home after this big expansion to her husband, to her lover, right? She now knows what it feels like.
Hmm.
She's learned. She's been noticed, attention's been given, and she's had a learning so that she's able to leave and bring that to her life. And
Hmm.
it's in her, it's like in her, we're reprogramming neural pathways.
Exactly. Yeah, I often say that in the work on the table, it's reprogramming your entire nervous system.
Exactly.
training your entire nervous system. So that's one of the things that I think makes it somatic learning so important, as you get it in your body versus it just being something that's so much in your head. And sex is something that happens in our bodies, not something, I mean, it can happen in our head with fantasy, but it's also happening in our bodies. So we need this connection between the body and the mind. And so let's just talk a little bit about what makes somatic practice or somatic immersion, like taking and spending 5 days in somatics. And this also includes, I think, doing yoga and movement. And these are things that we've lost. You know, we sit all day, and that has an effect on our pelvises. We don't move in an erotic way. You know, like I don't walk down the street in an erotic way. Maybe I do a little bit, but you know that like we don't get the opportunity to move our bodies in an erotic way, and not only that, but the opportunity to be witnessed by other women. I think that has been one of the most healing things I have ever experienced, is having a room of women actually witness me in my eroticism, because I was so judged as a little girl. You're a slut. I can't tell you how many times in high school I was pregnant from kissing boys. You know? So all those things that we do as young girls of rumors and jealousy and all that got healed by me being witnessed in my own eroticism. So can you speak just a little bit to the power of somatic immersion? Like what is that about?
So what do we mean by immersion, first of all? Like, what's immersion? Immersion is kind of like, so then these are like therapeutic words, and we're stretching them a bit to work with what we're doing, which is immersion retreats, where we're flooding, another kind of word, flooding, women with layered experiences that they may never have had an opportunity to have. So what would happen, Jaiya, is if someone was to come and just have one session, okay? They drive to wherever they're going, right? They leave their kid or their life, and they go and they have their 90-minute or their 3-hour session. And first of all, they may be nervous. What if it's the first time with a therapist, with a practitioner, right? They could be really nervous. I mean, getting naked is a big deal in front of a stranger, right? Like, wow, I'm going to get naked and they're going to touch my body.
You know, I am always so honored every time I have a client come, because I just, that nervousness and that like how big this is. And I just feel so honored, like, wow, you know, like this is such a gift, and it's so huge that they trust me that much, you know. Anyway, go ahead.
And they're shaking in their knees the first time, right? And it's a big deal. Oh my God, I'm going to let somebody touch my genitals, my breasts, my body, a male person, you know, a female person. It's a big deal. So what happens in immersion is they come in, knee shaking, oftentimes. They're not having to drive home. So if you go in for the one session, then you're going to drive home again. So you're going to have an expansion in a single session. Of course you are, right? But then you're going to have a contraction because you can't breathe in. Everyone do it. Breathe in.
And try not to breathe out.
But you have to breathe out. You have to breathe out. So if you're going for like a one-off, which is what most people do, right? One session, you're going to breathe in and then you're going to breathe out again. And you're probably going to be home when you're exhaling. All right? And in immersion, you may be inhaling and exhaling, but you're not leaving. So the layering of the experiences. So then I have my first get to know you session with my practitioner, then I go out and I'm with the other women and we're talking about our feelings and what was like for you, and this is what it was like for me, and oh my God, I think I heard you and you sounded like you were having fun, and that got me really excited. Maybe I could have fun, and we start to permission each other. The women start to permission each other to have fun. Also, the women come in hungry. Jaiya, you know, in women's retreats, they often have not felt satisfied in a really long time. And that's not about their lovers being bad lovers. Let's just say that, okay? It's about the quality of attention that we're given as women. to be in our arousal. It can even be about the food, about time, presence, all of it. We come in hungry to an immersion, not feeling well fed.
Mm.
And so then by day 2, day 3, day 4, you start to feel the energy relax in an immersion because all the women feel fed.
Mm.
Competition drops out. So it goes beyond sisterhood. Sisterhood's so important. And then the women can even step beyond sisterhood to this really expanded place because now the erotic is being fed. Everyone is going to get attention.
Yay.
Everyone's going to get pleasure. It's guaranteed. They know it. They know it's going to happen for them.
Yes.
So the longer the immersion experience, the more relaxed the nervous system becomes because we know we're going to get satisfied.
Mm.
And if we're having pain, with our bodies, the practitioner is working with us around pain, and we stop having pain because they're getting to really know us, Jaiya, right? And they're experts. This is what they do. And so we relax. Maybe we're not going to have pain anymore. Maybe we're going to have pleasure. Maybe we're going to get fed. And so immersion experiences allow us to be held in little small contractions. But mostly what we're having is expansions. And when we have a contraction, it's smaller, and we're held with the practitioners, with people like you and me, and with the other women. Did I answer your question? Probably way too much.
Yes, but it's beautiful. And so I want to go into the steps to de-armor. So everybody, I just want to give you the gift tonight of Pamela and I sharing what it takes to really de-armor and open, and what a woman needs in order to do that. So Pamela, when we were talking about doing this, you had said, I want to teach them how to de-armor their pussies. So let's just talk a little bit about that. And we came up with some steps. So the first step is that we need a sexy sisterhood. And we've touched on this just a little bit, but let's just talk about that. And you said something to me because I know I have not been great on having sisterhood, and because it's been a big wound in my life around other girls when I was younger. So let's just talk first about what is it? What does it mean to have a healthy, sexy sisterhood?
Well, I think it starts with knowing you're going to get fed. Okay, so, in the sisterhoods that form in these communities, women come in with the knowledge that they're not having to compete for a slice of cake. Okay?
So part of our armoring comes from competition as women. Like we armor up because we're going to battle with other women. Or absolutely. I think too, like for me, like I armored up around my sexuality with other women and not having sisterhood because I had so many women calling me names, for accusing me of stealing their boyfriends or, like all this kind of stuff. Like I armored up around women because it wasn't a safe place for me. I was much more welcome with the boys than I was with the girls. And it wasn't because I was masculine. It was because I had my sexual energy so turned on that women were really threatened by it. So anyway, so what it is having a healthy place where we can go to explore and gain support and be fed, to be nourished.
Yes, everybody's permissions.
And everybody has permission.
Everybody has. Isn't that great? Like you can go to like an amazing place and everything is taken care of for you. And every woman is told, darling, you have permission. You have permission to be sexy, to put on sexy clothes if you want to wear sweatpants if you want to. You're going to get table work every single day, just the same as everybody else. Everyone's going to get what to work with. It's all equal. Everyone's going to get time with a Pamela or a Jaiya or with both of us or whatever the retreat is, right? And that makes everybody relax.
Nervous system come down. There was a diagram I saw once of like a circle of women. And, just that circle of women, it was like protective. Like nobody could get in that circle. Nobody could hurt us in that circle of women. So, just touching on some of the reasons why it's important. Why is it important for us to have, like, for me, I have to see value. Why is it important? Like, some women talk about, oh, when I'm around other women, I get so fed and I'm so filled up. But for me, I feel drained. I can't handle it. I'm like, I can't handle all these women. So tell me, Pamela, why is it important for me to have more girlfriends?
It's so important for you to have more girlfriends, Jaiya. I mean, I think we're healing something very deep inside of us. Again, it's ancient. Women used to be unified, but because women began to be feared as powerful, one of the ways of tamping women down was to keep powerful women separate from each other, and for them not to have the support of other women. And when women permission other women to be erotic, when women permission other women to be seen in their bodies, we have very different bodies, Jaiya, and I can look at you and say you're beautiful, and I can see you, and I'm guessing, Jaiya, that you can look over at me.
I can, and see your beauty.
And see my
and
beauty.
Your juiciness.
Right, and it may be hard for me. I mean, it's hard for a lot of women to see their juiciness. We struggle with ageism, we struggle with weight, we struggle with our breasts too big, too small, our pussies the right size or color. When we befriend other women, they become loving mirrors for us, and they will tell you the truth, which is you're beautiful, and we can hear it in a completely different way. It's one of the most healing things that, women say, oh, well, I'm coming because of libido or desire. I want to learn how to open more, and I want to have multiple orgasms. And they leave and they go, yeah, I got that, check. I got that in the immersion. I learned about my pleasure, check. I learned about boundaries, check. I learned about how to ask for what I want, check. I got erotic confidence, check. And I got something I never expected. And that was to heal my relationship with other women. And it may be one of the biggest things I got from the retreat, is that I healed my relationship with women in a way that I didn't even know it was damaged. And I think what separates the somatic, the erotic, that we bring together into these kinds of retreats, is that's what's overlooked in other sisterhood programs, is the deeply erotic, the touch, and permissioning women to share that experience, to hear another woman actually in erotic or sensual pleasure. Because it's hard not to hear them.
Because there's so much pleasure happening. In one of my events,
carry the sounds.
In one of my events, that was actually really triggering for one of the women, because she wasn't experiencing pleasure, and all the women around her were moaning and she was just feeling really shut down and really like she couldn't communicate with her partner in that moment. So that was actually a profound turning point for her, was just being able to speak that's what was going on, and and then she had breakthrough the next day. But so let's talk about
the other women cheered for her. And that's what I see at these immersion retreats, is the women know each other's stories. We learn to trust each other during these very intimate retreats. And when you hear that woman have the breakthrough, I see women dancing to it. Like, oh my God, you hear what's happening. And the love, the healing in being able to love and not covet.
Yeah, I mean, how healing that would have been for me early on, to have had an experience where women were cheering me and loving me in my eroticism versus shaming me and shutting me down and making me the other woman, all that kind of good stuff. Right. Okay, so let's give everybody who's listening, a tool. What's one tool they could do to cultivate sisterhood? What's one thing, like if you were going to tell me, Pamela, like, I need you to go out and cultivate sisterhood, what's one tool you would give me?
Well, the simplest tool to cultivate sisterhood, well, I can give you a few. One is tell one woman every tell 3 women every day, 3 women, that they're beautiful. 3 women, give them a compliment. You know, and it may not be about physical beauty. It may be about a task they've done, or a gift they have done or performed. Women are very, very hungry for attention. We don't get a lot of attention. We're not used to receiving praise, and we yearn for it. Women really yearn for praise. So, you know, give 3 women a day some praise. And that cultivates sisterhood. Because when I see you, Jaiya, you see me. And when I say to you, Jaiya, what a gift you are to women, and to couples, and your open heart, you feel me seeing you, don't you? And I feel you looking back at me, and we have a moment of sisterhood. Now, isn't that simple?
It is.
Yeah, it's a moment. It's a moment of presence that we can offer to other women. The other thing that we can do, I'll give you 2 tools. How's that?
Okay, 2 tools.
You know, we're
Juicy
generous.
bonuses.
We're generous around here. The other thing that women do habitually is when we get on the phone with our girlfriends, we immediately launch into, oh my God, I got on the scale and it's awful. Or I looked in the mirror and I can't believe my stretch marks. Whatever it is, we start body shaming. And then our friends will say, I know, it's terrible. What are we going to do? I feel the same way. So one way to build sisterhood is to stop the self-shaming talk. So if you were to self-shame with me by saying
oh,
to me,
Pamela, I'm so old. I got a new wrinkle today.
Right. You know, I might say, oh my God, Jaiya, who can notice with those big, beautiful eyes? And I don't want you to talk about my best friend like that. You wouldn't say to me, Pamela, look at that new wrinkle on your face. So please don't do that to you, Jaiya. And move the conversation to something else. So don't engage in body shaming talk with your girlfriends. Stop it. Instead say, you know what, I'd rather hear, Jaiya, about something that you love about yourself today. And again, offering attention and presence. And when we do these exercises, when everything we've talked about so far makes our pussies relax. So do something with me, everybody. Clamp your legs together really, really tight. Really, really tight. Armor, really tight. And then I want everyone to just say, you're beautiful and open. 1, 2, 3. You're beautiful. Can you feel the difference, everybody? Can you feel the difference between the contraction and the expansion? De-armoring is learning to feel the expansion in our genitals and our pelvic bowl. And most women are walking around tighter than a drum. We're pulling in our bellies, we're tightening it up, we're contracting, you know, we're doing all those things. And we're one large suit of armor. We're in one large contraction. We don't even know it. We're braced. So in immersion, we let go and we can feel it.
Yeah, I find too, like oftentimes during the day, I'll just like, oh, relax. And I'll notice how much tension I was holding. It's amazing, that awareness. So let's do another one. So number 2, so number 1 was sexy sisterhood. Number 2 is positive presence and loving attention. So you made this statement of, you know, as women, we don't get a lot of attention and we don't get a lot of presence. And I hear this all the time from women, like, I just crave his attention. I just crave his presence. So let's first define that, because I think presence can kind of be this like amorphous thing. So what does it really mean to be and have loving presence and attention on you?
Well, there's different ways of having it, right? So when women come to an immersion retreat, usually they're very hungry
Mm-hmm.
for attention. So how do we give it to them? We give it to them through touch, where the touch is just about them. For 90 minutes, they're going to receive touch.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not touching back. And because most women worry all the time that they take too long,
Uh-huh.
or what about him?
Uh-huh.
Right? So there's no what about him. And most women, when they're dealing with eroticism and their sensuality, they're kind of like on a race. They never even get to feel their arousal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has to keep up with the dude. If they're heterosexual or with their partner. And, everyone's on this big race to climax. So we take that away. And it becomes 90 minutes of where and how can you feel pleasure in your body.
Mm-hmm.
So offering a woman unconditional one-way touch where they don't feel is a really big way of feeding a woman attention.
Uh-huh.
And of course, partners can give this to their partner at home.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend that everyone buy a massage table. A massage table is like the best sex toy.
Best sex toy. I say it all the time. Get a massage toy. Get a massage table.
Yeah, get a massage table. So you can offer it to your partner. And you have some great videos around that, Jaiya,
Mm-hmm.
where people can learn how to give touch. So offering a woman one-way touch where there's no agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, dudes, if you're listening here, you're not going to get off. It's not about you, zero. Okay, letting a woman really feel what it's like to have what we call in our world, Jaiya, erotic trance states,
Mm-hmm.
which most women never get to experience. Loving attention and praise. Having food prepared just for you that you get to eat. Attention with other women that's uninterrupted,
Mm-hmm.
where you're allowed to talk about real things, where you're being. Go ahead.
I'd add also loving presence and attention to yourself. Like a lot of times we don't give it to ourselves. And there's that thing of like giving it to ourselves so other people can give it to us too. And I feel like sometimes I block the presence and attention. Like if somebody starts putting too much attention on me, it's like, oh, I'm going to go into hiding because I don't want to be seen. There's this,
Right.
there's sometimes that fear of like really being seen. So let's give them one tool. Maybe it's getting the massage table and just having 90 minutes of somebody really give you presence and attention and receiving that. I think that could be a tool. Is there any other tool you want to give them? And value in someone other than your lover giving it to you?
Saying yes to your own pleasure.
Mm.
Saying yes to giving yourself time. Saying yes to giving yourself an opportunity to have these experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing? Often what we do is that we do these like little bites of pleasure, like we'll buy the fancy shoes or something. It's sort of like a quick bite.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Nordstrom's, I'm in Neiman Marcus, and I'm going to give myself a quick indulgence. And then I'll like scurry I almost will pretend like it didn't happen. Right? I get the shopping bag into the house, I throw it into the closet. I kind of pretend it didn't even happen really. So like, what if you actually chose to give yourself a really big pleasure experience? Bought yourself an airline ticket, arrange schedules so that you could choose pleasure for yourself. Can you give yourself that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can tell you to give yourself a bubble bath. But, how many sex educators are going to tell you to give yourself a bubble bath, right? It gets old. What are you going to do that feels risky and big where you're making a stand for yourself.
You said in our last interview that I did for my program, you said abduct yourself, plan
Yes.
your own abduction, and I
Yes.
like that, like your own pleasure abduction. And you sent me a fun
Yes.
picture. Okay, so number 3. So we've done number 1, sexy sisterhood. Number 2, presence and loving attention. Number 3, uncover what your body, mind, and heart desires. So we were talking to you about this thing of like, just ask for what you want, ask for what you want. But what I find on my table is that most women have no idea what actually really turns them on. I mean, they can make guesses in their mind and they're trying to communicate with their partner what they need, but that's not necessarily working. So when it comes to uncovering what they want, why is it important for you to know what your pussy desires, know what, as part of the de-armoring? Why is that so important?
I think it comes back to an earlier part of the conversation, which is, can your vagina open to what you don't want?
Uh-huh.
I mean, can you open to what you don't want? Can you open if you don't feel safe? Can you open to something, that you don't know is going to happen to you? It's really hard. And that's what we ask most women to do all the time. We just ask them to unconditionally, open. And that's why so many relationships eventually become sexless. Because the woman isn't opening and the guy gets tired of knocking on the door.
Mm-hmm. Or she opens and then her body resents her.
Exactly.
That's the other thing I see is like, I keep opening and I don't want to, and now my body is just rebelling. My body now feels pain. My body won't get wet. My body, it just rebels. Yeah.
So we do a really lousy job with sex education in this country. It is not pleasure-based. It is fear-based.
Mm-hmm.
Our lovers are taught that, and we are taught that. We are not given good sex education. How is a woman supposed to know how she wants to be touched? How can she tell her partner if she's never had that experience? Right. And that's where practitioners and immersion, that's where it comes in. I want to send every woman in the world on a 5 or 6 day immersion retreat where they can learn about their bodies. We go to yoga retreats all the time, right? That's cool. I can go to a fat farm, right? That's cool. Oh, you're going to go, to one of those raw food retreats. Good for you, right? Oh, you're going to go do downward dog somewhere. Terrific. So we support people in learning how to exercise and making time for that.
But we don't support them when it comes to sex.
No, we don't.
That's just,
yeah. We need to create, so this is where we are sexual revolutionaries.
Mm-hmm.
It's because we're asking women and their partners to support them in going into an immersion experience so they can learn with a practitioner, which is not emotionally laden, because practitioners aren't your lovers. Then these are not surrogates.
So I have a question, Pamela, that just came in. How can we tell when the lover's body is talking? Like how do we listen to our lover? So this is coming from a man, I'm assuming. How do we tell when our lover's body is talking? Like, how do we listen is also what I'm hearing out of this question. Like, how do we listen when our lover's body is talking to us?
Would you like me to answer that?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. Well, hopefully the woman has had some coaching and isn't full of shame about her pleasure. Because if she's tamped down, it's going to be hard for you to know. But if she's a woman who is expressed and who has some experience and doesn't feel shame, she will make sounds. And we teach that to women, right? We teach that, Jaiya. Does it feel good? Go, yes, more, thank you, yes. We move our bodies, right? So if you were touching me and I was moving like this, you would kind of get the, yes, you would know that my body's talking, right? And that I was feeling pleasure. We teach women not to endure. And unfortunately, at immersion retreats, we teach women not to endure touch. Unfortunately, your lover may be enduring. Mm-hmm. And if she's enduring, she may be very still. She may be performing for you, which is,
Mm-hmm.
like doing what she thinks a woman would do that's totally aroused. A woman who is really in arousal is dancing. She's moving. She's sounding. Yeah?
And I'll add to that that sometimes if a woman is in a deep, deep erotic state, it might look like deep breaths and
Mm-hmm.
it might look like she's off in a trance. Like I know for me, I sometimes I'll be like more moving in the beginning. And then when I get into really deep arousal, I might get very still. And I might just,
Women,
my eyes might kind of roll up. But a deep breath, I think we think like a woman talking is like, like that kind of thing. As
and it
opposed to
can be.
sometimes, and it can be, absolutely, but sometimes it can also just be a very deep breath that happens in the body where the body goes, I'm safe. It's like a deep body sigh, and the body says, I can relax, I can open. And so, how do we tell when our lover's body is talking? I think also comes down to, well, when you touch her, does her body tense up and close to you? Does it move away from you? Does her body open? And like for me, it's like if I want a part of my body touched, I might move my body. But I think too, like women need to be trained on how to do this. I think that it ultimately comes down to we just don't know. We think we need to be still during sex. We don't know we have permission to let our bodies move. It feels very unnatural sometimes to let our bodies move. And so, listening, I think if you can develop awareness skill, there's so much the body is saying sometimes just in stillness. So if you could just put your hands on your lover's body and just be still with their body might tell you things. Like
I
just
love that,
feeling.
Jaya. I
Yeah.
love that. You know what I think is true? If you've been with one woman, you've been with one woman. And anyone who thinks like they're a Casanova, like I know women, I've been with all these women. No, you don't.
No.
You don't. You've been with one woman, you've been with one woman. And women are just so different in how they are erotically that when you are with a lover, let it be like you're opening a new book.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I can't agree with that one more. Yeah. I want to go back to a tool about presence and loving attention. And one tool you had told me when we were talking was have someone tell your pussy it's beautiful.
Yes.
I liked
It's,
that one, so I wanted to
it's a
bring that back.
great one. Because so many women, first of all, I know it sounds odd, right? But we're pretty internal creatures. So we don't actually get to really see our vulva unless like a mirror is held and like we're really getting down and looking there.
Hmm.
Okay?
Hmm.
And the only images we get to see are usually photoshopped images of other women's pussies if we get to see that at all. And so many women, the number one fear that women have is that their pussy is ugly.
Hmm.
That they have an ugly, malformed pussy. So if you can be with a woman and just spend time petting her and offering her pussy attention and praise, oh my God. I mean, that can be life changing for your relationship with your woman.
Hmm.
Certainly would be life changing for a woman to hear that not only is she normal, because we have a fear that we're not normal, but that you think our pussies are beautiful.
Hmm.
Yeah, and not demanding. Just being again, attention. There is nothing sexier for a woman than attention.
Hmm.
And what you said, Jaya, like you go like, oh no, don't see me, don't see me. But part of that is the craving to be seen.
Uh-huh.
Don't see me, don't see me, see me,
Uh-huh.
see me. Do you see me? No, don't see me. Peekaboo, right? We play peekaboo when we're little. And so we, even in our fear of being seen, there is that desire for the feminine
Hmm.
to be seen and admired. And when we give that to women, they de-armor.
Hmm. So continuing our de-armoring, we have to move a little more quickly because we're having so much fun, but we need to move a little
We
more
need an
quickly.
immersion.
We need an immersion. So number four, number four is you need to get unleashed, free of shame and sexually whole. So can we speak just a little bit to what unleashed means? What does that look like to be an unleashed?
As she starts doing this.
An unleashed sexy woman. What does that look like?
I think I'm going to kind of like throw it back. So there are two women looking at this audience right now.
Mm-hmm.
Two very different women. I'm unleashed. Are you unleashed, Jaiya?
I'm unleashed.
Okay. So when you've been with one, when you've been with one unleashed woman, you've been with one unleashed woman. Mm-hmm. And so we all may express our unleashedness in our own unique way. So for me, it's to say yes to pleasure. For me, being unleashed means that in the body I'm in now, I can have pleasure. Mm-hmm. For me, being unleashed is I don't endure. I don't endure sex. I don't endure touch. I'm able to reach for the cupcake. I'm able to put the cupcake down. Mm-hmm. And I'm not frightened of being seen. In fact, I welcome you to see me, because I did not put on this lipstick for you not to see me, okay? And so part of being unleashed is opening as a woman to be a flower, to be seen, not to be frightened of our sexuality and of our desire. Being unleashed means learning what it is and breaking through our pleasure ceilings. Like, oh, I'm too sensitive, and oh, no, stop. I've had enough. Being unleashed is learning to be a little uncomfortable in pleasure so that you can have more pleasure. All right, Tag, you're it. What is being unleashed?
So being unleashed for me is being alive. It's radiant aliveness. And so being unleashed for me is like free in my body. Like there's like my body can stretch, it can dance, it can move, it can be orgasmic. It's living in an orgasmic state. It's not accepting less than what I know I'm capable of doing in this body and what I know someone is capable of playing on this instrument of my body. It's being a little naughty. You know, it's breaking some rules. So I could go on and on. And I think it's so important for us because it is our aliveness. It is, I mean, it is a wellspring of aliveness, this unleashing. And so in order to de-armor our pussies, we need to unleash. And there's some of us who are on some very tight leashes. So what's a tool, Pamela, you would give a woman who's feeling like she's on a leash and she really needs to unleash and de-armor in this way?
Go away.
Go away.
Go away.
Like
really go away. Like change your environment for a little while. You know, unplug for a little bit. Go where you think you're going to find your pleasure. Take a risk. Find something that scares you a little bit, that fills you with anticipation. Get out of your routine, break a pattern. So if you want your collar and your leash off, you need to take your collar and your leash off. And it doesn't mean that you know, the name of my book is actually the answer. I'm not so promoting it, just really it's the answer. So the name of my book, Shameless. Ditched the diet, got naked, found true pleasure, and somehow got home in time to cook dinner. So my idea is that you can go away, you can get naked, you can find your true pleasure. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to go home again and cook dinner.
Right.
It doesn't mean that.
Maybe it's like getting a hotel room for an evening and having like a pleasure day in the hotel room without the kids and without all the mundane and just changing your environment. That can be huge. Or maybe it's cleaning up your bedroom. For some of my clients, it's cleaning up their bedroom. Okay, so tool number 5, or step number 5, so just to go through them again: sexy sisterhood, positive presence and loving attention, uncovering what your body, mind, heart desire, getting unleashed, and the magic of arousal. So can you talk to, this is a de-armoring of your pussy, is going into the magic of arousal. What is that, Pamela?
Well, that's what got me in Oprah magazine. It's all about arousal. It's all about arousal for me. So, and I know arousal is important to you too, Jaiya. Arousal is the one aspect of female sexuality that's really been ignored. Hmm. And so if, I call it, lotus lift meditation, learning to access. So as a woman, your genitals are your pilot light. And it's the flame that heats your pelvic bowl, which is your cauldron of desire. And so it's like teaching women how to heat up the cauldron with arousal as a separate meal. It doesn't have to be attached to orgasm and climax.
Or so penetration.
Or penetration. Absolutely. Thank you, Jaiya. Arousal is actually access to your own inner pharmacy. If you can learn to stir arousal, which is something that we teach, you are stimulating dopamine and endorphins and oxytocin. It's what puts you in that erotic trance, Jaiya. When you go away, you're probably very deeply in arousal. You're like an arousal soup. Right?
Yes. So let's give them a tool for arousal soup. How can they get there? What's something they could do?
Well, we can do it right now.
Let's do it. Let's get into, can we all get into arousal soup together?
You want to do lotus lift with me?
A little, if it's short, can you do a quick lotus lift? A quickie?
We're going to do a 2-minute teach. We're not going to actually be able to do it, but people can do this after they listen in, okay?
Okay.
You take your hand. Everyone got a hand. And you sit on it. And you put it between your legs. And you do this with your clothes on. You don't have to be naked. I mean, you can be. And then you just rock. You do like a pelvic tilt. And I like to close my eyes. I like to put one hand in my heart, one hand in my pussy, and I rock. And this is where you're giving yourself attention and presencing. You're presencing your genitals. Men can do this too. You're presencing your genitals, your heart. You're feeling the connection between your genitals and your pelvis. And Jaiya, I'm going to come back to you. If you were to do this for 5 or 10 minutes, you would start to feel warmth in your genitals, tingling, and that feeling is arousal. It's really simple. And you can do this as a somatic practice. Everyone can do this. It's the greatest tool. You can do this every day for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. When we're at retreat, we do a whole thing around this. But you can do this simply. It doesn't always have, things don't always have to be a big deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I was noticing myself lubricating just from that little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're very well wired. You practice. So I get hot in my.
I get hot too. Yeah.
Yeah. When I'm like, talking to you and creating, because the arousal comes up because I'm so well trained that my arousal comes up as part of my creative energy now. So I get warm. It travels up to my pelvic bowl, my heart, and out to you. So I'm aroused. Like, do I look aroused? I'm aroused. You look aroused.
I'm aroused.
I've been aroused the whole time because we have learned to use arousal in our genitals and move it up through our bodies. Every woman can learn to do this.
I love it. Okay, so number 6, fill your body with pleasure, which I think ties into the magic of arousal, is to fill your body with pleasure. So I'm just going to kind of tie that in with number 6, just for time's sake. But if we can take that into our whole bodies, not just our genitals, I think it's awesome. Okay, and that also ties into body image stuff just a little bit, and we've touched on that a little bit. But when your body is in full pleasure, you're not worried about the cellulite on your butt. Mm-mm.
Nope.
Okay, so number 7, open enough to be fully penetrated. Can you speak on this? Because I think there's a lot of women who want to open, like your client is like, I want to open, I want to open, I want to open. And opening enough to really be penetrated. I think a lot of women have never been fully open and fully aroused and then penetrated. Very few women, in my experience, but
Yeah.
go with that.
Well, I think it comes back to the beginning of this conversation, which is that we're not taught to open, we're taught to close our legs. So there's a whole rewiring that has to happen in women, a whole relearning of how to be comfortable with open legs. And it doesn't mean that we're a bad girl, yeah? We have to be able to trust, Jaiya, what's coming at us.
Mm-hmm.
Is it welcomed? Do we know? You know, so like if you're coming at me with the kind of love and attention that I can feel safe with, I am more likely to de-armor, relax, and open. Mm-hmm. Women also can start to do some pussy care. Like keep some coconut oil in the bathroom. And every time you go to the bathroom, put a little coconut oil on your hands and just like do a little like facial. Like we put cream on our face, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe there's another product, Jaiya, that you like.
Coconut oil is lovely.
Yeah. So like, you know, how nice to have a pussy that smells like a pina colada, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, make friends. Make friends with your pussy. You want her to open. You want her to have pleasure. Well, you've got to make friends with her. Mm-hmm. And if you're not looking at her, if you're not giving her some coconut oil and some touch, if you're not learning how to talk to her and do things like arousal exercises, it's going to be hard for her to open for you, and she's going to hurt you. Yeah. You know, she's going to be tight and there'll be pain. But we can teach you how to have a relaxed, happy pussy who's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
I walked around touching my pussy so much at one point in my life that I didn't realize I was doing it sometimes. And I would walk out on my front porch of my house, which was on a main street, just like with my hands in my pants. Anyway, okay.
There's that fire.
So just the 7 steps, just to review them for everybody. There's the sexy sisterhood, positive presence and loving attention, body, minds, and heart's desires, uncovering those, getting unleashed, the magic of your arousal, filling your body with pleasure, and opening fully to penetration. I think we need to kind of start to wind down a little bit, Pamela, just because, do you know what the number 1 block is to this? So I just want to talk to like, what's the number 1 block to people doing all those steps? And then we'll open up to some more questions and talk for a little bit.
Number 1, I don't know, there may be like a triad, you know, so it's fear. Fear that we're not going to have it, right? Like, oh my God, I'll never feel this. So there's so much fear. We're so armored down. We don't think we can open and have it. And so it's that fear that we're never going to feel this. You know, and I see it on the faces of all the women who walk into an immersion. I'm never going to feel it. I'm never going to feel it. And then, you know, sometimes it's like the end of day 1, they're like, wow, you know, I feel it. But that fear that I'm not going to, or that I've had enough pleasure, that, you know, I get pleasure, it's enough. Like, I don't want to be a pig around pleasure, right? And that our pleasure is dangerous.
Yeah.
That somehow, if we unleash, we will become an unsolvable problem.
Yes, we'll be so dangerous and so erratic out there, and we'll just cause problems, and we'll be big whores, and you know, all that kind of stuff. The shame, the fear of if I get unleashed, I'm going to be so insatiable, or I'm going to be so naughty, and then it's really essentially boils down to shame, I would say.
It always boils
around
down
that.
to shame.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we're going to open it up here to some more Q&A in a moment, but first, Pamela, I just want you to share with everybody what you're up to, because I think that what you're doing with these immersions is really revolutionary, and I know you've been talking about it the whole time about kind of what an immersion is, but how can people dive in deeper with you, find out more about how they can go on an immersion?
Well, I happen to have immersions.
Yay!
So, you know, I was a client of this work. You know, that's my story, is that I was a client for almost 10 years, and I know what women need and want, and that's why we've created immersion retreats for women.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so what I have going on right now is I've just completed my 25th retreat. Isn't that amazing?
Yay,
My 25th,
25
my
retreats.
25 sold out retreats in 4 years.
Hmm.
And we're beginning our fifth year. And the next retreat is in Tuscany at a beautiful private villa. It's our fourth year in Tuscany. And I have 3 spots left. It's a retreat that's only for 6 women and 4 staff. And it is in September. And people can check out. It's so funny. I actually wrote down the date so I would have it in front of me for this, and now I can't find it. Isn't that funny? But it's in September, late September. You can find out about the Tuscany retreat by going to backtothebody.org. And then I have one like a week later in Barcelona. And again, it's a 6-day retreat. It's for 8 women, a little bigger retreat. And it's an opportunity for women every day to work with a practitioner, the same practitioner all the time, Jaiya, and receive this body work with a practitioner who's trained and learn how to receive. Get all the skills that we've talked about. Obviously, I'll be there supporting the women in this experience where all their needs will be taken care of. And, you know, women say to me all the time, Jaiya, well, why don't you come to LA, or why don't you come to Nashville? No, you're going to come to me. That's a part of the deal, is you've got to want this so badly that you buy a plane ticket and you abduct yourself to 6 days in Tuscany, with Pamela and her magical team of men, or, you know, 6 days in Barcelona, and we have cooking lessons and eat great food and swim, and we experience arousal, and we learn what it is that we want in our life, and we learn not to endure, and we learn what gives us pleasure. And it's an extraordinarily healing experience for women. And you know what's even more extraordinary?
What's more extraordinary?
You have a 98% return rate.
Yeah, that's
And
extraordinary.
because immersion works. And when they finish their 5th or 6th day, they've had some sort of breakthrough. And they're like, wow, I want to come back on that day. You know,
So I know some people are going to have some crazy questions. So there's a couple questions coming in. One is about, like, am I naked? Am I getting touched by people? Like, that's kind of freaking them out. So
Okay.
speak to that just a little bit.
You can be as naked. First of all, they will not be naked.
The practitioners are not naked.
No, the practitioners are not naked.
If anybody comes to see any sexological body worker, we are not naked in the sessions. So that's clear.
Yeah, we have a code of ethics. This is not surrogacy, which is something different. It's not sacred intimacy, which is something different. This is sexological body work. We're a certified profession in California. So we work on a massage table. I work usually with 2 men, sometimes with 3, depending on the size of the group. So we like to make sure there is a lot of professionals to hold this very delicate space for women. Some women have their first session with their clothes on, with no erotic touch whatsoever. There's no rush. You have 6 days to build your comfort. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And there is the opportunity to have full body erotic touch, to learn what you like. You may be curious about lots of different things with sexuality, and you can explore that at our retreats in a really safe container. And that's what's really important, I think, Jaiya. And so, you know, we have women who say, oh my God, I can't believe I'm at this retreat. Tee hee hee hee. You know, I'm just telling my friends I'm at a yoga retreat. And that's okay. We're doing yoga. And we're doing dance.
Orgasmic yoga.
Yeah, but we're actually can do like real yoga. And
And
orgasmic yoga.
and what about guys who want to send their partners? Do
Well,
men send their partners?
yeah, they can send their, well, first of all, their partner has to want to come.
Right.
But can I say something risque?
Yes.
I have a partner who told his wife to tell me that he gets an erection every time he thinks about his wife going to one of my retreats because his wife comes back like so juiced up and open and ready for him that it's like the best investment he's ever made was
Wow.
encouraging his wife to attend the retreats. Some men have told me that it saved their marriage. But,
Hmm.
loving the men to support the women. But if you're a woman and you're watching, you come for you.
Hmm.
You don't come for your partner.
Hmm.
He may get like nice, rewards out of your work, but you're coming for you. You're
Hmm.
coming for your relationship with your sexuality. You're coming to learn who you are truly as an erotic creature, who you are in sisterhood, who you are in your body, because we don't know what we don't know.
And we
And
could
it's
translate that all to coming, C-U-M-M-I-N-G too. You're coming for you. You're coming to learn about your body. So, anyway, I just had to throw that in there because I was thinking about that the whole time you were talking. Great. Anything else you feel? And if anybody has questions, you can type them in the box if you can get your box to type. So if there are
who is it
questions,
for? Who are these retreats for? You
yeah,
know,
yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
yeah, I
Who
mean,
are they for?
the range in age has been as young as 24 and as senior as 75.
Hmm.
So there's a really large range in age. Women come when they're happy in their marriages, when they're having a divorce, when they're in a transition, when they're looking for more. Women come when they feel a change in their body. Sometimes when they're having perimenopause or menopause, or they're going through infertility and they're trying to get pregnant and they feel disconnected, or they've had breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Women come because they've had trauma.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They've had, some kind of trauma in their bodies, whether it's sexual trauma, child abuse, rape, or just the trauma of being a woman in our world. We
Yeah.
just had a woman from Iran
Mm-hmm.
attend, and a woman from Mexico, and they had trauma just from the culture,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know. So a woman who has had trauma, and here's what's also kind of cool: women like me come, and women like you, Jaiya,
Mm-hmm.
women who feel like I've got it going on erotically, but I believe that there's more,
There's always more.
and
So, okay.
they're coming to give themselves an extraordinary experience to find out about what the
Mm-hmm.
more is.
Mm-hmm. So I'm getting a whole slew of questions. So I just want to give them the website one more time. I know we've been typing it to everybody. Back to the Body Retreat and the dates,
No,
just so you
back,
guys, backtothebody.org, sorry.
yes.
And Tuscany Retreat is September 5th to October 1st.
So
Barcelona
you
Retreat
looked
is
it up.
October 6th to the 12th, just so you guys have those dates.
Can you say
Okay,
that
so
again? Because I talked over you, Jaiya. I'm
yeah, yeah.
sorry.
Tuscany is September 25th to October 1st, and Barcelona is October 6th to the 12th. Okay, let's do some questions. So Sam asks about jealousy among women. Um, what can we say about jealousy among women?
It's
I
been
think it
cold.
needs to end.
What was that?
I said I think it needs to end. Uh,
Yeah. We need to heal our mother wounds.
hmm.
Yes.
Can you say more about that?
Our mothers had wounds. Their mothers gave our mothers wounds. Our mothers then lovingly passed them on to us.
Hmm.
So our mothers may have been taught um, may to watch other women, that they'll steal our man or things like that, or honey, close your legs, because they tell us, our mothers may have given us these messages because they wanted us to have the best life and to have the best skills to survive as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's forgiving our mothers and then learning a new way of being.
Okay, sometimes I dissociate when having sex. What are some techniques I can use to stay connected in my body?
Would you like to answer that, Jaiya?
Sure. So one of the things I like to go through the body and map it and see where you dissociate. So actually, literally, like, so if I was on an arm, I would go, okay, tell me when you check out. Is it when I come up your inner thigh? Do you check out? Is it when are you checking out? So that would be my one thing, is to start just having deep awareness of what's that moment when you notice you just checked out, or when you came back. Because sometimes we don't notice we checked out, but we notice when we can't come back. So if you could have a practitioner or a partner or somebody go through your body and say, okay, tell me when you check out. And then what I do is I usually then do some work in that area to start bringing back sensation. So maybe it's breath into the area, maybe it's some sound, maybe it's moving, but starting to bring some awareness. Sometimes I find oftentimes another place in the body where it will release, like in here, inner thigh, and then I'll get in here and I'll just start pressing really intensely. Or you could wire it to a place in your body where you are not dissociating, where you
And
do feel pleasure. Go
yeah,
ahead.
and some people also need more sensation.
Mm-hmm.
So they check out because the body, so everything you said is yes. So yes to everything Jaiya said. And an add-on would be that some people need more sensation than other people. But
Mm-hmm.
we get bored. So we check out.
So our minds start going cuckoo.
Yeah, our minds are starting, our body's
Yeah.
bored.
Yep. And
So
go ahead.
sometimes when I see the men going in and out of sessions, they're carrying ice or they're carrying different things to wake up the skin,
Mm-hmm.
because some of the women need more sensation
Mm-hmm.
to stay present somatically to their bodies.
And then I would also look at trauma. You know, are you dissociating because of some kind of past trauma? Because that's usually why we dissociate. And then I would do something to clear the trauma. Maybe it's neurofeedback. Maybe it's doing some healing with some somatic experiencing practitioner or something like that. Okay, next question. My current partner has never had an orgasm with a woman during sex. I'm doing my own sexual body transformation and want to be present for him as a caring partner. He's stopping the watching of porn and the death grip masturbation, and I want him to be able to orgasm in me for us to connect deeply. So this is a woman asking about her male partner having an orgasm during sex and during penetration.
I think you should go there, Jaiya.
Yeah. Okay. So how do we help him? So great that he's stopping a somatic pattern, maybe of watching porn or doing the, death grip masturbation. So we need to start sensitizing his penis, and the way that he's self-pleasuring absolutely informs the way that he's making love to you. So one thing would just be getting present. And I would also look at what's his fear around ejaculating in a woman. I mean, so many men have been taught you're going to get her pregnant. Like there's so much danger in their ejaculation. Like what does it mean if he ejaculates inside of you? Does that mean an emotional connection that is so deep he's going to lose himself? Or does that mean he might get you pregnant and that's a fear? Like is there an emotional component to it? Is there a physical component to it? Meaning that he's the only one who can get himself off. Can you get him off during oral sex? Like I would want to look at all the physical components and remapping and rewiring and resensitizing his penis to intercourse. I would play with him with a fleshlight. There's a tool called a fleshlight where it could be a mix of him doing masturbation, but it's also using something where his penis is inside a sleeve, so he starts to get used to that sensation. Those would just be a couple places off the top of my head to start. Anything you want to add there, Pamela?
That sounds really good to me.
Okay. What does a typical day look like for an attendee of the workshop?
Oh, I could do that.
Yay.
So we won't go through the first day, the first arrival day, because that has some ritual in it. And if you're coming to the retreat, I want some of that to be a surprise.
Surprise. Yep.
Surprise. But so day 2, women wake up at about 7 a.m. and we do what we call, you have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, we do morning practice. So the men are yoga and dance instructors or Tai Chi teachers. And so there's an hour of a movement, a meditative hike, dance, yoga, nothing, you don't have to be like a big yogini, okay? We keep it light, there's great music. And then kind of like 2 by 2 by 2, the women go off to sessions. So 2 may be having a 90-minute body work session, while 2 may be doing coaching with me
Mm-hmm.
while two are having free time. And so that kind of rotates around. And then there's processing with me before and after their sessions, having time to shower, self-care, go swimming. Lunch is usually like free form. So in Tuscany, there's a beautiful, and in Spain, there are beautiful buffets laid out. Women can take the food as they want it.
Mm.
And then in the afternoon, usually in these locations, we have an experience. So in Tuscany, we go to Siena, and it's like ecosexuality. How do we bring, how do we walk? How do we flirt? How do we talk? How do we experience Siena? How do we, go, maybe we go for a wine tour or a tasting tour or a cooking lesson. So all the days are different. All the afternoons are different. And
Mm.
then we have workshops. So these feminine experiences of what is lotus massage really, that meditation practice. How do we really connect to our arousal? We have workshops around these kinds of things, around our
Mm.
relationships with our partners. So you're busy. I kind of call it like sex boot camp, with a
Sex boot
lot of
camp.
pleasure, a lot of laughter. And we start, at 7 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes it's 10 o'clock at night before we tuck you in.
Mm.
But you get
They're big
tucked in
full
with a
days. Uh-huh. Okay, how long did it take Pamela working with a somatic practitioner? I feel some desire, but my body often can't feel pleasure. I want to change that.
Well, Pamela is a different kettle of fish, because when I started to do this work, it didn't really exist for women, Jaiya,
Mm.
you know? And so I was doing the back and forth thing. And I would say by my third session, probably, I was really starting to feel myself. Um, for the women at the retreat who come in saying they don't feel desire, they don't feel connection, it can happen as quickly as the first day, and usually by day three. By
Mhm.
day three of immersion, all the women are juicing and bubbling. The cauldrons are sizzling. So many people have come in with the feeling that this can't work for me. This is last ditch, but I'll go. I'm going to try one more thing.
Mhm.
And thank heavens. I haven't met a woman yet. There's an IRB study in place now, Jaiya, looking at why this works. So Weiden
Yay.
University has a study looking at our work. I think it's
Yay.
the immersion. I think it's the immersion. It's very qualified people
Yeah.
holding the space. And I don't know what it would be for this woman, but what I believe is that if she wants it, it will happen.
Yeah. I also, I see people come in one session. For me, it's usually like three to somewhere like a number three, things start to really shift. I
Yes.
had a breakthrough recently with a male client. It was his third session, and he just was like nothing, nothing, no awareness of what was happening, and then all of a sudden, huge breakthrough in third session. So I see that very frequently.
Three
Yeah.
is a big number.
Yep. If you could both change one thing about the way a man approaches their sexuality, what would it be? If you could change one thing about the way a man approaches their sexuality, what would it be? That's a great question. Mine would be thinking that men are simple. I think it's a huge myth out there that men are just easy and simple, because what I see is that actually men are very deep and very profound in their sexuality, and they have just as much capacity as we do. And so I would like to see men approach their sexuality in a bigger idea of what's possible for themselves in regards to pleasure, and to own their sexuality and not shy away, because I think that male sexuality has been very shamed in our culture just as much as female sexuality. Um, I want to see men really owning their sexual charisma and power just as much as women. So yeah, realizing you're not so simple, that there's a lot of profound depth to your sexuality.
That is such a beautiful answer, Jaya. I'm not going to follow that. That is beautiful. Yes,
I
Yeah.
love men. I just love and absolutely adore men. So I feel for you guys. Okay, next one. Do you recommend men avoid pornography to be present with their female partners? Is there research that supports men using porn, or does pornography ruin a man's ability to be present with their partner? What do you think about that one, Miss Pamela?
Well, I kind of would like to see more women watching porn. So I think that we get turned on in lots of different ways. And I don't like to shame anybody's turn on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we say don't yuck or yum. So unless something's a problem for you,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a problem. So if all you do is masturbate to porn and then you can't be with a woman or a man, then it's a problem. If it's disturbing your sex life, then it's a problem. If it's not disturbing your sex life, it's not a problem. Women are one of the largest consumers of romance novels. And we encourage women to read them. We call it bibliotherapy. It's an actual word, bibliotherapy. And it's being stimulated by the outside. So whether it's visual or we're reading it, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's only a bad thing if it's a bad thing for you.
Right, right. So my take on it is, one, watch your somatic habit that you create around using porn. So if you're doing it the same way, the same time, and unconscious of what's happening in your body, then it can develop into a challenge. There actually has been some people who are coming out about, I can't get an erection anymore because I've overstimulated myself with porn, and I expect women to behave a certain way, or I've gotten my sex education from it. I think porn can be a great arousal tool and a great educational tool. Not a great educational tool, a great arousal tool and educainment, not educainment. What am I trying to say? Entertainment, but not a good education. So watch if you're wiring yourself for a somatic habit to only be turned on a certain way, so that when you're with a real woman, you have challenges. So kind of what Pamela said about, if it's creating a challenge in your life, then yes. If you're using it occasionally to get turned on and aroused and it really floats you and feeds you, then I don't see any issue with it. I know that I feel so bad for this. I shamed one of my boyfriends once for watching porn because I walked in on him masturbating to some blonde, really plasticized body. And I was like, how could you do this? Because it wasn't me. And I was so like, that's so not me. Right. And so I thought, like, if he's aroused by that, then there must be something wrong with me. And so out of my pain, I shamed him. And it's something I really, really regret now, knowing what I know, like, oh, now I understand. Like, it's about variety. It was about, like, it was about whatever he was doing in that moment. So I get it now, but I didn't get it then. And that's one thing that I wish I could go back and say, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me for shaming you about your porn. Okay, that's all the questions we have. Pamela, do you want to leave them with anything? We still have quite a few. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there with us in this conversation.
It's a long one.
People here, yeah. So
I'll leave you with this. What we learn through pleasure, we never forget. Plan your own abduction. Make room for your pleasure. And it's a quest that will pay you back over and over and over again. And thank you, Jaiya, for having me.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. And I love what you said about when you learn in your body, you never forget. I can't say how true that has been in my life. So thank you. And thank you all for joining us.
Go
ahead.
If people have questions, Jaiya, about the retreat, I'm happy to talk to you and move your obstacles for you. So send me an email. Go to the website, backtothebody.org, and hit request for a free consultation, and I'll talk to you about it and see if it's right for you.
Great.
And help you move the obstacles.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Pamela. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining our conversation this evening. We can always take it on Facebook. So if you want to comment about this evening on Facebook, please go over there, comment, tell us what you liked, tell us what your ahas were, your insights. I'd love to hear from you there. All right. Until next time, fill your life with pleasure. Mwah.